In the late summer of 2022, the remote town of Ironwood, tucked away in the Appalachian Mountains of North Carolina, became the backdrop for a disappearance that would unsettle its people for years. 39-year-old Michael Carver, a quiet but gifted mechanical engineer who worked remotely for a defense contractor, had always been known for his precision and discipline. Friends and colleagues described him as reliable, meticulous, and cautious. A man who rarely left anything to chance. Hiking was his escape, a way to silence the constant whir of machines and blueprints that dominated his professional life. On August 14th, Michael left his modest rental cabin on the edge of town. He told his elderly landlord he planned to spend the day trekking along an old fire road that wound into the Blue Ridge wilderness. He packed the same gear he always carried: a weatherproof backpack, a GPS tracker, a compact first aid kit, and a leather-bound journal he used for sketches and cryptic notes. The last confirmed sighting of him came from a highway toll booth camera on Route 221. The footage showed Michael driving his black Jeep Cherokee, paying the toll, and heading deeper toward the unmarked roads that fed into the dense forests of Ironwood Ridge. He looked calm, focused, exactly like a man heading out for a day hike. But Michael Carver never came back. When he missed a scheduled virtual meeting with his project team the following Monday, his colleagues assumed it was a technical glitch. By Tuesday, when emails and calls went unanswered, concern grew. His family in Virginia was contacted, and by Wednesday, the Ironwood Sheriff's Office had launched an official search. Helicopters circled above the mountain slopes. Tracking dogs sniffed their way through thickets and ravines. Volunteers from town scoured the fire roads, shouting his name. Despite the effort, not a single trace appeared. Not a shoe print. Not a scrap of clothing. Even his GPS device, which should have transmitted a signal, was silent. It was as though the mountains themselves had swallowed him whole. The silence unsettled Ironwood. Missing hikers were not unusual in the Appalachians, but the complete absence of evidence troubled even seasoned rescuers. Locals who knew every ridge and stream of the forest admitted they had never seen a case like it. By the end of the second week, the official search dwindled. Newspapers speculated wildly. Maybe Michael had faked his own disappearance. Maybe he had been attacked by wildlife. Or maybe he had simply fallen into one of the countless hidden ravines that crisscrossed the mountains. Theories swirled, but answers were nowhere to be found. Then, an unexpected lead emerged. A park ranger, making rounds along a seldom-used logging road 15 miles from the original search zone, reported seeing a black Jeep tucked between the trees. The vehicle was covered in a thin layer of dust and pine needles, suggesting it had been there for days. When deputies arrived, they found Michael's Jeep locked. Inside were his hiking boots, his backpack, and most curiously, his GPS tracker. The passenger seat held a half-empty bag of fast food and 2 disposable coffee cups. No one could explain who the second cup belonged to. The discovery sent a chill through the community. Michael had not gone into the forest alone. Someone had been with him. The discovery of the Jeep turned the case upside down. What had begun as a missing hiker investigation was now shadowed by suspicion of foul play. Detectives interviewed locals, retracing Michael's final days in Ironwood. A waitress at the Timberline Cafe remembered seeing him a week before he vanished. He hadn't been alone. He was seated across from Adam Keller, an old acquaintance from college who had recently resurfaced in town. Keller was a sharp contrast to Michael, outgoing, restless, and perpetually broke. In Ironwood, people knew him for his charm that never quite covered the smell of trouble. He picked up odd jobs, borrowed money often, and seemed to drift from one failed plan to another. Witnesses described the meeting between Michael and Adam as tense. The men spoke in low voices, occasionally gesturing sharply. One waitress overheard fragments. "Not again. Can't risk it." And, You owe me." When confronted, Adam admitted he had met Michael at the cafe, but downplayed its significance. "Just two old friends catching up," he said, with a smile that never reached his eyes. He claimed he hadn't seen Michael since, but inconsistencies piled up quickly. Cell phone records placed Adam near the same logging road where Michael's Jeep was found. Despite his insistence, he hadn't left town that week. Even more troubling, fingerprints lifted from the Jeep's passenger side door matched his. Rumors spread like wildfire through Ironwood. Some whispered that Michael had been sitting on classified information from his defense work. Others suggested he had been hiding debts, or worse, involved in something he couldn't talk about. Conspiracy theorists from outside the town latched onto the case, spinning tales of government black sites and secret experiments in the Appalachian woods. The pressure on Michael's family intensified. His younger brother, Jonathan, appeared at press conferences, his voice breaking as he pleaded for leads. "If anyone knows anything, please don't stay silent," he begged, his eyes red with exhaustion. Reporters swarmed, eager to dig into Michael's private life, hunting for cracks in the image of a disciplined engineer. Then came the most unsettling clue. Inside Michael's cabin, investigators found his leather journal on the desk. Most of it was filled with sketches of ridgelines, notes on hiking trails, and technical doodles. But the last 3 entries were different. The handwriting was erratic, hurried. On the final page, scrawled in heavy strokes, were the words, "I am being followed. If something happens to me, it won't be an accident." That single page changed everything. Detectives pressed Adam Keller harder. He admitted that he and Michael had argued, but insisted it was about a personal loan Michael refused to extend. He claimed Michael had grown paranoid in recent months, convinced someone was watching him. According to Adam, Michael's disappearance had nothing to do with him. Still, the evidence painted a darker picture. Phone records, fingerprints, and now Michael's chilling warning all pointed to the same direction. He had not gone into those woods by choice, and Adam Keller was the last person known to be with him. But without a body, the case stalled in a limbo of suspicion and uncertainty. Weeks turned into months, and the mystery of Michael Carver began to slip from headlines. The search had grown cold, and Ironwood's townsfolk went back to their routines, though a lingering unease hung in the air. Some trails that once bustled with hikers now stood empty, their silence heavy with dread. But in late October, 3 hikers stumbled upon something unusual near the ruins of an old ironworks mill, deep in the forest, nearly 20 miles from where Michael's Jeep had been found. Rain had washed away the soil, exposing what looked like scraps of fabric tangled in the roots of a fallen tree. Authorities were called, and soon a grim excavation began. Beneath the thin layer of earth lay a shallow grave. Inside were skeletal remains, along with tatters of clothing that Michael's brother later confirmed as his. Forensic analysis revealed fractures to the skull, consistent with blunt force trauma. Beside the remains lay fragments of a broken flashlight and a torn strap from his backpack. The discovery jolted the investigation back to life. It was no longer a missing persons case. It was homicide. Detectives quickly revisited the evidence. Adam Keller, already under suspicion, now stood in the crosshairs. Phone records placed him within a mile of the old ironworks mill on the day Michael disappeared. His fingerprints were in the Jeep. And now, a witness came forward, a retired Forest Service ranger who recalled hearing 2 men arguing near the mill that same afternoon. One of the men, he insisted, matched Adam's description. When investigators confronted Adam again, his story shifted. He admitted meeting Michael in the forest, but claimed it had been about money. According to Adam, Michael owed him a significant sum, and the two had quarreled. He stormed off into the woods. I didn't follow him, Adam insisted. But detectives weren't buying it. The journal entry, the physical evidence, The witness accounts all painted a darker truth. Faced with mounting pressure, Adam's composure began to crack. During a late-night interrogation, after hours of silence, he finally spoke. His voice was trembling, almost pleading. "I didn't mean to. It wasn't supposed to happen like that. I just hit him once. He fell. He didn't get up," he confessed. The argument had spiraled out of control. Fueled by anger, Adam struck Michael with a heavy flashlight. When Michael collapsed, Adam panicked. Instead of calling for help, he dragged the body to a shallow pit near the ironworks and buried it, hoping the forest would conceal his crime forever. The confession sent shockwaves through Ironwood. For months, townsfolk had whispered about wild animals, government secrets, even cults. In the end, the truth was painfully human. Betrayal at the hands of a supposed friend. Adam Keller was arrested and charged with second-degree murder, evidence tampering, and obstruction of justice. The trial, held the following year, drew national attention. He pled guilty and was sentenced to 35 years in prison. For Michael's family, the revelation brought bitter closure. They finally knew what had happened. But the truth was, no comfort, only the confirmation that trust, once broken, can destroy lives. The abandoned ironworks mill became a grim landmark, avoided by hikers who once walked its trails without fear. The people of Ironwood, once proud of their mountain home, now looked over their shoulders in the woods, carrying the memory of the crime. And so, the mystery of Michael Carver ended, not with conspiracy or vanishing, but with a brutal reminder that sometimes the most dangerous wilderness lies not in the forest, but within human hearts